Also, hello everybody. So tonight we've got Andrew or Drew. I just call you Drew. I hope that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, either or.
From Australia, and I met Drew over at the hypnosis conference not that long ago in November, and I actually signed up for your course, Drew. So when it's on next, yeah. So I thought I'd get Drew on, and we're going to talk about erotic hypnosis, which is cool, something real different. But also, Drew does heaps of stuff. If you check his bio out and has a book out, and you can actually tell everyone, Drew, kind of, yeah, what you do and all of that. Carry on.
Yeah, sure. So it doesn't matter if you call me Drew. Obviously short for Andrew, either or, it doesn't bother me. So yeah, hi. Look, thanks so much for taking the time to pop in and have a listen to erotic hypnosis. The name itself can at sometimes scare people off and be a little bit confronting. For those who are from Australia, I mean, I'm from Queensland, Australia, and I find that the people up here, it's a baby country still, and people overall are still very British in the sense that anything that's kind of outside the box or anything that's, outside the comfort zone tend to shy away from things like this quite a lot. And my aim and I guess my goal is to get out there and educate people like yourselves and let people know what's really behind erotic hypnosis and to kind of rule out the myth of it being just some sort of seedy pornography type of hypnosis or something like that. It's quite powerful and it does change people's lives. But before we get into it, I just want to say feel free to jump in and ask questions. And one thing is, I don't want anyone kind of going away feeling like they should have said something or they wish they'd said something, because it often happens. You often get that 1-2 person that says that they, I wish I'd said something. I wish I'd come up and just had the guts enough to say it. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to say anything. I've heard it all. I've seen a lot of things in my journey. There's not too much that rattles me. Rude people are probably the only thing that rattles me. Anything else other than that, I'm pretty down to earth. I'm pretty grounded. And I'll go through and I'll tell you a little bit about myself in a moment. But just, yeah, sit back, feel comfortable, feel relaxed. Like Justine said, this is really casual. This isn't a PowerPoint presentation or a militarized, meeting or anything like that. This is very laid back. And I think Kiwis in Australians are very much the same in that sense. We're pretty chill. And in Queensland, we are anyway. Again, just feel free to ask, write down as much information as you want. If you do feel that there is something personal that you don't want to kind of say in front of the group or something very intimate, then feel free later on to contact me or contact Justine and get my details, but we'll give you the information. Or I think, Justine, would it be fair that there'll be a chat thing that they can just jump on and they can just message me privately, like no one else can see that, if they've got any questions?
Yeah, on Zoom. So on Zoom in the chat, you can actually just your name and do a private message there. Don't worry, it's only me that
you can do a private.
No, I can't see. I can't see. No, I did it. Just go straight.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
Just probably message me and then we can answer the question without you being named as to who asked the question. So if you want to do it like that as well, that's totally fine. Whichever feels great for you, whatever's comfortable, no pressure.
We can play a game, guess who asked?
Yeah, that's right. So a little bit about myself. I won't drown you in the pedestal talk. Yeah, look, I've been around for quite a while, and I'm a master clinical hypnotherapist. I also do timeline therapy or timeline regression. I do NLP. I do coach. I'm a qualified trainer as well. So I do teach people legitimately 3-day hypnosis that they can be certified and recognised both in Australia and internationally as well. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm also very intuitive. I do card readings, stuff like that. I don't follow a religion, but I'm very spiritual. So I do go with my intuition quite a lot on a lot of things, which works really well with my practice. I also specialize in erotic hypnosis. I'm a researcher, a developer. I'm also an entertainer. I'm an illusionist, a magician, a mentalist. I also do the comedy hypnosis side of things, which I'll talk to you more about, because that is how I got into hypnosis as a therapy. And I train and also do sound healing and ice work, so breath work, ice work as well with people. So I do, quite a range of things. I've got a book that I released last year called The Wild Journey, biography on my life, telling pretty much from the moment I was born right through to about 2 years ago. The highlights, the good, the bad, the ugly, as you would say. And it's quite a read. I had quite a few people tell me I should write a book, so I did. I believe each and every person, including the people in front of me on Zoom right now, have a book in them, at least one. Everyone's got a book in them. Everyone's got a story. And if you ever thought about writing a book, I say just do it. Just go for it, Don't be afraid. Don't overthink it. Don't procrastinate. Just do it. That was my biggest thing that held me back, was procrastinating and overthinking on how hard it was going to be. And once I got past that, the rest was really easy. And I managed to write a book. I come from a pretty traumatic past. So I find it both, it's been heart-wrenching and a hard thing to trudge the path to get where I am today. However, it's also been rewarding because it's made me excel and understand my clients and understand people better, having these symptoms myself. So I was, to go back in order to understand me now better, I originally came from a military background. So at the age of 17, I joined up in the Defence Force. I signed up for 45 years. I saw active service overseas. I came back. I stayed in for a bit. I then went into the security sector, where I did a range of different security, from shopping centre security to armed escort to personal protection work, property protection. I did excelled myself in certificates in private investigation work and government investigation. Was a firefighter for 6 years. I did that parallel to working in local government, where I further became a senior investigator, working for the government, doing factual investigations, prosecutions and stuff like that. Married at the time, 2 beautiful girls, raising another 2 from a previous marriage with my partner. And then one day everything hit the fan. Shit hit the fan, as you would say. And shit hit the fan pretty hard. And I had a meltdown, and it was at work behind my desk, and I literally froze. So that amygdala reptilian brain of mine, it went into, fight or flight. It went to flight. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen to my seat. And then I just didn't know what to do. So then in my book, I tell a lot about it. But in short, I went on stress leave. And then from there, I went to counselling. From counselling, I was identified as having PTSD, which I knew I had, but no one wanted to step up and actually admit that I had it. And so it was a long fight with government to try and get them to acknowledge that. I went to psychologists, psychiatrists. I was pumped full of pills. I was pretty much a walking zombie for a few years or so. I exited my relationship, 6 years in family court. I was being punished by my ex and drilled, through that process. And then the process of finding myself begun. So I met a beautiful woman at the time. I was with her for 6 years, and she was a godsend. She actually helped me through the process. And my daughters as well, they helped me. And then I started my recovery. So in that time, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD because I grew up with an abusive father. He was more a verbal abuser, then a physical abuser, but still nonetheless it was both. And you know, seeing police chasing through the house at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you know, watching him throw knives and screwdrivers into doors and walls, punching holes, that type of stuff, you know, the normal stuff, the normal family stuff. So once I identified that that wasn't the norm, recovery on that started at the beginning. Obviously, my military and fire service had bearing on the PTSD. Because I had that, I was identified then as having DID. So for those who don't know what DID is, it used to be called as personality or multiple personality disorder. It's now DID, which is dissociated identity disorder. So we have all got multiple personalities within us, but when they become disassociated and you wake up one morning and there's a $40,000 BMW sitting in your driveway and you don't know how it got there, but you drove it there, that's a problem. So, so the idea is, and anyone that does NLP may have done parts integrational work, and they won't admit it, but basically that is merging, you know, personalities and getting them to coexist and work together rather than against each other. So I had a lot of work in NLP. Hypnosis was a lot to do with that, learning self-hypnosis. So there was that as well. So I hit the jackpot. So I was winning. So eventually, long story short, I started healing. I started doing a lot of variety of different things. I'm still on my own journey. I'm going on a 10-day silent retreat in March where you can't talk, you can't do anything other than meditate most of the days. You're cut off from the outside world. So I still put myself outside my comfort zone to learn so I can teach others. But now I'm not medicated. I am very clear. I don't drink unless I really want to drink. I don't do drugs, smoke. And I am very, very grounded and very focused on what I do and where I want to go. Not to say that people still someone to say 10 days till I'd be kicked out. Yeah, well, that's going to be a challenge. I like to talk out loud to myself. But yeah, look, but no, I've come good. Like I said, I'm off the medications now. I've been off them for quite some time, and I see things so clearly now. And I've now been able to help people that come to me with childhood abuse, trauma, post-traumatic stress, you know, that type of stuff. And I know how it feels to have depression and not to lift your body up off a lounge or off a bed, and to be that chronically sick, you vomit, you know, and you can't sleep and all the rest of it. So I get it. I hear people come to me for that. And so I find that a blessing in disguise that I actually am able to have had gone through that to understand other people. So, which then at some point got into the erotic hypnosis as well. So, so that's it in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions other than they wouldn't be able to be quiet in a retreat for 10 days?
What if we text you? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. We'll text you on the 10-day retreat. Voice messages, and then if you on the phone, you'll be like, yeah.
I have an analogy. I believe that we're like a vehicle, and I tell my clients this, you know, if you can make the outside of the car look so pretty and souped up and look amazing, but if you don't take the vehicle in for regular checkups and service the vehicle, it's eventually going to die in the ass, and you're not going to get anywhere, and it's going to be harder to try and get it going. So we're the same. We need to service ourselves. We need to make sure that we're in check, you know, and we shouldn't be waiting for someone to say to us that something's not right. We need to make sure that we step up and that we identify firstly the problems, and then we learn how to deal with the problems. And once we learn how to deal with them, like I will never, unfortunately, be able to just relax and put my hands down on the table and say, I'm fixed. I'll always have to work on myself, because PTSD is unfortunately something that still sits there. We had a tornado just on Christmas night, and it ripped through my property, ripped through my house. And it was traumatic, and it set my PTSD off. So it was there still, but I was able to deal with it so much quicker and so much better that, yeah, it's gone again. So that's the thing. You just got to learn your coping mechanisms, and life's too short to fuck around and, you know, sit back and say, I'll get to it next week or next year or whatever. Just, I believe if you want to do something, do it now. Analysts are saying that, you know, we retire here in Australia at the age of 67, and then the average expectancy of living is up around 78 or 77 or something. So you got roughly about 11 years of financial freedom. And I don't know about other people, but I don't really want to be hobbling around, you know, with, you know, sick and injured and trying to travel around Australia or overseas and that. I want to do it now while I'm still able to. So all my advice is just take the bull by the horns and just go for it, you know, like take calculated risks is what I'm saying. And you'll get places. Don't be fearful and afraid. And I can tell by who's on here now, you guys aren't one or two dimensional people. You're obviously people that think outside the box, and, you know, and I can tell straight away the people that are within the one or two dimensional, they wouldn't be sitting here now. They'd be too afraid to, you know, expose themselves to something like erotic hypnosis, or they find excuses. So I always say, and I don't know if you guys have heard this as therapists, but there's always the two people. There's the away and the towards people. So people that obviously towards, they have goal setters, they are people that just do things, and the away are the people that make excuses, procrastinate, and say they'll get around to it another day. So you're either a towards or an away person. That's the two people I identify in with the clients and people that come to me and say, I want to quit smoking. I say, well, are you towards or away? So which is it? What are you going to do? You can make excuses and say you've got no money, or you can make excuses and say whatever, but you're going to do it or not. So I kind of get a little bit blunt with people sometimes, but I think they need a kick in the bum. So having said that, so that's pretty much my journey up until now. I'm always trying to do new things, different things. I have two businesses as a sole business owner. So I have my entertainment business, and then I have my therapy business. I do and have been an entertainer since I was a kid. Was doing backflips in front of mum and dad before I could walk properly, apparently. I can't even do a backflip now. And I was doing Groucho Marx impersonations, and buggers me, like most people don't even know who that is. But doing magic since I was 6, and it's helped me become who I am today, the magic industry. I'm a professional over here. People know me by name. I travel around Australia. So I do get a fair bit of work, and the comedy hypnosis is probably where I sit and get paid better and do more exposure on what I do and get my clients from doing that, which is great, because what I do for the therapy or for the hypnotists around the world, such as yourselves, is I exploit the hypnosis, but I like to think of myself as a bookend of the comedy show. So I tell people and explain to them how it works, and then I bookend it at the end, and then I finish off doing some therapy work for the participants before they finish, to show just how amazing they feel and how fantastic they feel, to show people that it is actually quite a powerful thing. It does work. You can have fun with it, bring out the inner child, but there is a serious side to it, and there's a side that can help people and change people and make them the best version of themselves. So I feel that's my part for the community of, you know, people that do NLP and hypnosis, etc. So I love what I do. If we get time, Justine, I said I'll probably throw a video up or something and show them something just to entertain. But what I want to do first is I want to just pick someone on Zoom here that I can read their mind for a second. I'm going to do a mind reading exercise with someone here on Zoom. Is there anyone that would like to volunteer, or should I just volunteer someone? The lady, Jessica. Hi, Jessica. You can unmute yourself if you want.
Oh, God. I'm good.
Excellent. So where are you in New Zealand? North or south?
North.
North. I've been to Morrinsville. That's his like little country town, and that's as far as I got years ago.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna read your mind. We've never met before, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a deck of cards. I've got to find my camera here. Deck of cards,
Yeah.
and before we begin, before I'm not even going to ask you what the card is, I want you to mentally visualize one card. Now, the rule is it has to be a legitimate card, and you can't change your mind.
Yep.
Once you've got it, just say yes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so there's 52 different choices in the cards. I don't know if that light might just kind of, yeah, it's better. 52 choices. So what I'm going to do is, mind reading isn't actually real. Well, I can't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at you through Zoom, and I'm actually going to have a look at your body language and be able to interpret through your body language exactly what card you've got. It's a bit spooky, but it does work. All
Okay.
right. All right, I've got it. It's pretty easy. I've been doing it for a while. So 52 choices. So I can't cheat. I'm going to find the card somewhere in here. Yep, I believe it's that one. All right. So I'm going to keep it up in front of the monitor so I can't swap it out. I can't cheat. I can't do anything. So it's there. So what I'm going to do now, so you can't change your mind, I want you now out aloud to tell everyone what your card was.
7 of Hearts.
The 7 of Hearts. That's so interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. Would you all be amazed out of 52 cards if this was the 7 of Hearts? Yeah?
Yeah.
7 of Hearts. Believe it or not, here we go. 7 of Hearts. Let's see if we can get it. It's on there somewhere. There's 52 different cards on there. It's on there somewhere. I'm only joking. It would have been a good trick though, yeah, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me do one more, but this one's for everyone. This is for everyone this time. Thank you, Jessica.
All good. Thank you.
It's a bit of a rip-off trick, but anyway. Okay, I'm just going to dial that light right down because there we go. All right, so I've got 3 cards, King, Queen, and there's a 3 of diamonds in the middle. Now, this is called the 3-card Monty, or Find the Queen. I'll just see if I can bring that a bit closer without it getting blurry. Perfect. All right, so all you've got to do is remember where the middle card is and what the middle card is, all right? That's all you got to do, which is 3 diamonds. So what I'm going to do, so I don't take it away, is I'm actually going to put my finger on the middle card so you can actually see the card behind there is the actual king. So you know it's the middle card. I'm going to pop the middle card out right in front of everyone so you can see that I'm not doing any sleight of hand or anything like that. Does anyone want to have a crack at what the other 2 cards are in this hand over here? Anyone want to have a go at it? Just unmute yourself. So if I'm holding the middle card here, does anyone want to name the other 2 cards?
The King and the Queen.
Yeah, correct. So you've got the King and the Queen over here. So if that's the King and the Queen, what card am I holding here?
3 of Diamonds.
3 of diamonds. That's what most people would say, but it's actually what they call the Tree of Diamonds. Whoop.
Wow.
Actually, the Tree of Diamonds. There was no 3 of diamonds. Okay. That's 3-card Monty.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Now, the reason I did that was not only because it's cool and it's fun, and you guys are a fun bunch, because Justine said so, but also I've just built rapport with you, and that's what I do. So I've just loosened the grip and I've just built some rapport with you. Got you laughing, got you giggling, got you engaged, and that's the main purpose of it. And that's what I do. And that's what I love about my shows, because when I go out and I do my comedy hypnosis shows, I engage people with a little bit of mentalism, a little bit of a trick. It might be silly, it might be stupid, but the idea behind it is to get them in rapport with me. And as you would know, the 3 main pillars of getting results with the hypnosis, and it's really important with erotic hypnosis as well, is rapport. More so because you're really going deep with someone on a personable level than you would if someone was just coming to you for smoking or something like that. I use smoking a lot because we've all had the person come to us for smoking. So the rapport that you build with the client when you're doing that is really vitally important, because when we're doing erotic hypnosis, we really need to ensure that we get them into the deepest state of trance as we can get them, to animate them to get the best results. And this isn't just with erotic, this is with anything. The idea of the game is to try and get them as deep as you can get them without obviously getting them to sleep, which in my opinion is when they're asleep, and there's debate about it, but when they're asleep, they are asleep. That's not a state of trance, but it's actually a state where they process everything. So I know this for a fact that it doesn't work as a trance-like state when they're asleep, because now and again I get someone fall asleep up on stage and I ask them to carry out a task and they don't move. They're snoring, they're asleep. So the only way that I bring them back out of that is by tapping them on the feet and waking them up, because other than that, they're asleep. Sometimes I just leave them on stage and I drag them by the shoulders, I lift them up and I drag them to the side and I just leave them in the corner somewhere and let them have a nap for the duration of the show. And they're quite good. They're comfy. They obviously need the sleep. So what got me into erotic hypnosis is exactly that. It's exactly the comedy side of it. So I originally studied hypnosis to add it to my entertainment, so that I could obviously expand and get out there and do something. But I also found, since a kid, I was always fascinated by hypnosis. I always thought as a kid that you had to have swirly eyes and a certain voice and a certain look, and that's how it works. But later I found out that obviously that's just all crap. I've even done an event where I've worn a mask over my face and the contestants have not even been able to see my face, yet only hear my voice, and I've put them into trance. So they don't even need to look at your face or your expression or any eye movement, nothing. It's just purely they are listening to your voice and your directions. And that's what makes up the three major pillars that make it work. And that is rapport, obviously. That is obviously following directions 100%. And obviously then listening to your voice. So if they can do those three things, then obviously they'll get to where they need to be, but 100% committed to wanting to do it. As you know, you can't make someone do hypnosis if they don't want to do it. You know, if they're at 68% going, yeah, I'll give it a go, it probably won't happen. So I got into it because what I used to do is I would do my comedy shows. And I would do the comedy hypnosis shows, and I would do, you know, all the funny stuff, and I would make them do all these weird things. Then at the end, before I brought them back into full awareness, into a conscious state, I would implement for the next 10 or 15 minutes, or whenever they walk through a certain door to leave the venue, that they would have an orgasmic experience. And they would have the most pleasurable, most orgasmic experience that they've ever encountered, 10 times anything they've ever encountered, every time they shook someone's hand, whether it be male or female. And so I would snap them out. They would feel amazing, feel wonderful. And soon enough, I would have a lineup of their work colleagues, their friends, strangers, you name it, lining up. And I've even got video footage on my YouTube where their mates are rubbing their hands together going, come on, let me have a go. And yeah, sure enough, the reactions I get tell the story. So I've had women moan and scream out. I've had them drop to their knees. I've had them shiver and shake. I've had guys do the same. And the most pleasurable experience is they don't want to let go of the person's hand, that it's so amazing that they squeeze their hand tight that they actually got to try and force their hand off them to get them to release. And that's male or female, male on male, female, it doesn't matter. It's just what the pleasurable experience that comes off that gives them that moment. So when I found that was quite remarkably good and it was working quite well, it twigged to me that there's got to be a market there for this. There's got to be something more with this, that that people need this. And so I started researching and started developing erotic hypnosis from there for the therapeutic side, but also the pleasure side and playful side as well. So under erotic hypnosis, for me in my business, I have it under the umbrella of erotic hypnosis, but it branches off to erotic play or erotic therapy. So I split it off into two. So I do have people that come to me that want to just have fun. Then I have people that come to me that want to fix social, sexual anxiety or social awkwardness or, impotency and stuff like that. So that's when I met my first client that came to me, and he had impotency issues. And I started to connect the dots up there, and I started to realize, hang on, there's definitely more here that meets the eye, because not all therapists would feel comfortable about taking on a client talking about they can't get an erection, or a woman who can't orgasm. So this particular chap came to me and he said, I can start off okay, but I can't finish the race. And so he would go impotent. So like any practitioner, I got him to do some tasking. I don't know if you guys know what it is or whether you do it, but tasking is something that I was taught and I really stick to. And I find that it really does make a difference with your sessions. And I find this goes for any sessions, by the way, not just erotic, but it loosens the grip by the time you actually have your first meeting with your client to do the hypnosis session. And I've heard people doing 30-day taskings, 14. I usually just do 7-day taskings because it covers the week and weekend. And I get them to go away and diarize and pin and just, dot point their behavioral patterns and stuff, if it's smoking, drinking, stuff like that. So they're becoming more conscious, aware of what they're doing. And the idea of the game is to loosen the grip, but also to start getting them to neurologically understand maybe why they're doing it, because there's always a reaction, or there's always an action or reaction to an action. So every action has a reaction. So people eat because they're depressed. Why are they depressed? Because they just got sacked from a job. So there's always, if you become your own investigator, you need to go back and find through the timeline the point of origin where this stems from and fix that first. So once you do that, you can find that usually you can resolve a lot of issues without targeting just the eating disorder or the drinking or smoking or whatever it might be. And so with this chap, I asked him and said, are you happily, do you have a partner? Yes, he was happily married. He's got a wife, got a couple of kids. And I said, do you love your partner? Are you in love? Do you find her attractive? The obvious questions, you've got to ask them. If you don't ask them, you won't know. So he said, yeah, no, I find her attractive. I'm very much in love with her. He just it doesn't happen. It just dies off. So what was happening is he was self-sabotaging. So it is a neurological thing. So, and it gets worse because he starts looping. Every time that he does this, he's already setting himself up for fail because he knows that he's going to obviously go impotent. So it happens because his brain's telling him it's going to happen. So hypnotherapy and erotic hypnosis is perfect for that. So I did work on him and got him under erotic therapy, doing specific scripts for that, to go away. He went away for 7 days. I contacted him. I said, how are you feeling? What's happening? He said to me, I don't know. He said, I feel a bit different. I think it might work. I'm not too sure, but I don't think it worked. So yes, but no, but maybe. So I said, look, how about you come back in? I'll give you another free session, or a free session, another one, and let's just try something a little bit different. Let's tweak it a bit. Let's go for it. So he come in, we tweaked it, we did it a little bit different. And then at the end of the session, he said to me, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that my wife is pregnant. We're expecting a child. So I'm like, you're saying that you can't get to the end game, you can't ejaculate, but your wife's pregnant. And I said, it's either yours, dude, or it's not. And of course it was. So I said, go and get out of here. It works, you know. So obviously he wasn't having problems. I think he just was coming in just to have another go. So just get a freebie or something. I don't know. So that's just one of many different things. I get a lot of women, obviously, that come to me more than men. Men are still sitting in ego. So it's great to see that, you know, Scott's here. So that's excellent. You know, it's good to see another bloke. But men are really struggling to let go still. This day and age, 2024, there's a lot of men still hiding in the ego. She'll be right, mate. I'm okay, and so on. The other thing I find as well, I get a lot of guys from out west, so out Roma, out west, back Queensland, and that the truckies, you know, they're doggers, they're shearers and stuff. They can't get to me because I'm in a rural area, but I'm more up along the coastline, and so they don't know how to use technology. They don't know how to use Zoom, and it's embarrassing. So they won't tell you that. And I've only had a couple open up. And I've asked them, I said, is it because you don't know how to use technology? And they've said, yeah, mate, I don't know the first thing about jumping on a computer and stuff like that. So that's a lot of the issues that you can face. So I wouldn't take it personal if someone turns you down and says they don't want to do a Zoom meeting, because they just probably don't know how to use technology. And unless you explain it to them, you might have a chance of actually doing some therapy work. For erotic hypnosis, I've got video footage showing myself doing erotic hypnosis with a lady called Amanda. She allowed me to use her name and her image and everything to show people through training purposes that erotic hypnosis does work on Zoom. It works perfectly fine. So in this particular video, Amanda's sort of cocked up against a lounge. She's comfortable, and for the purpose of training, what we did is we anchored her to a yellow fluorescent marker pen. So every time that she saw me bring into view the yellow marker pen into the Zoom video, she would have an orgasmic response. So she'd have an orgasm. And so I'd take it out and then she'd stop. I'd bring it back in the view. She'd have another orgasm again. And this just kept happening. So I'd just be talking to her. I'd bring the pen. And it was so funny because it would be so subtle. I didn't have to go like that. I would just bring it up and just talk to her and just flash it a little bit. And she would start having an orgasm. And she'd be biting on her finger and moaning. And she was touching herself, but you can't see that. And so she was getting off on a yellow marker pen. So can you eroticize an item? Absolutely, you can. Absolutely. Your limitation is your imagination. I've had women come to me and they've wanted a paddle or a whip that they want to use with their partner and they want to eroticize it. So when the whip hits a certain part of the Pacific area that they want the whip to hit them, they have an exponential amount of orgasmic release. So it's not just an orgasm, it's like 10 times anything they've ever had. And the way I do that, in the way that I get them to level up on their orgasmic response, is I get them under hypnosis to cast their mind back to a place and a time that they can imagine every which way, shape, and form that they had their most pleasurable orgasmic experience, whether with oneself, with a partner, or with a group, because I do swingers clubs and stuff as well. So what they do then is they go back to that timeline, they remember that moment, and then I get them to internalize, and then I get them to imagine ramping up that experience. So I then, using hypnotic talk, erotic language, I then ramp that right up so I can go up and up and up and up and up to the point where they collapse, they can't walk. So depending on the level of where they want to go, you can do it with sensitivity as well. Some women I had one young lady, she was quite young actually, with her partner come to me, and she was losing her sensitivity. She was into group sex, and obviously over time she was losing sensitivity, and she wanted to be more heightened and more sensitive down in the vaginal area, in the clitoris area. So we were able to do the same process but enhance her sensitivity, so that when her partner touched her there or she engaged in intercourse, that actually ramped up and increased quite substantial. So I know another woman come to me and she just lost all sensitivity due to age, menopause, stuff like that. So we were able to, a couple of sessions, get her back feeling, that she could do it quite easily, because there's some of the women saying they can do it with themselves and get themselves off. That's no problem. But then when someone else is doing it to them, it's just not happening. And it's funny enough, I get a lot of women that don't know each other that say to me, I feel switched off. They actually use the words, I feel switched off. They're the words they use. And it's quite remarkable because they don't know each other from squat. And I just go, wow, that word keeps coming up. I feel switched off. The other thing that drives women away from having sex or having an orgasmic release or pleasurable experience is pain. There's a lot of women in pain. So some mental and some physical. So there's trauma involved with some, but some are actually physically got back pain or hurting and stuff, and it actually drives them away from it. And so they want to eliminate the pain. So through the process of hypnosis, I can actually stop pain in most cases and alleviate the pain. So then we can work on the pleasurable side of it as well. So yeah, so it's interesting. Each person has a story to tell, but sometimes the information is consistent, and you keep hearing the same thing coming up all the time. But one of the other things that I find, especially with women, again, as I say, it's mainly women based, because there's a lot of men that just don't want to step up and admit that they could do with a bit of tweaking or a bit of help, is obviously not feeling the self-love, self-worth. Feeling body shame is another thing that I get quite a lot as well. Huge body shame. And so they want to feel sexy. They want to, feel sexy. They want to look sexy, and they want their partner. They want to. One thing, and I ended up writing a script because it kept coming up, was that they hated looking at themselves in the mirror. They didn't care what anyone said. They just despised looking at themselves in the mirror. They hated the idea of what they saw. So I came up with an erotic script, and I'm quite proud of it because it's quite beautiful, but it's very erotic, as it is. But it gets them to go through so suggestibilities, all that stuff. I do the induction. The induction's beautiful because I don't know how many people here use the staircase technique. Hands up, who uses the staircase technique and gets them to go down? Yeah. Well, what I've done is I've taken the concept of the staircase, but what I've done is I've elaborated on it. So take, for example, I've got Susan who comes to me. So rather than get her to visualize the staircase and that there's 5 steps and you're going to go down each and every one of them, what I've done is I've already started with the hypnotic language by already introducing that she's standing on the top of the very utmost step, and then she's looking down the steps, and as she looks down the bottom of the steps is a ballroom, and down there she can see silhouettes of people, men, women, but a lot of people, and those people are actually waiting because it's her event. They're there to see her. So she's already starting to feel that she's wanted, that she's needed, and then I then get them in every which way, shape, and form to imagine themselves dressed in the most beautifulest attire that makes them feel powerful or beautiful or both. So they get to use their imagination. They get to then explore that, and they get to be a fairy princess or a queen, or get to wear something slinky and tight and erotic, and maybe nothing at all, maybe nude, whatever they desire. And the key part I find when you're doing any type of work, especially with inductions, is to not try and lead them into what you picture them doing. Let them explore that themselves. Let them use their own creativity, imagination, but open it up and try not to be too narrow with the idea. Just be expansional with it and just open it up and say whatever you want. It's your fantasy, it's your imagination. You have a beautiful imagination. So as they go down the stairs, I get them to imagine that the stairs is like laced with a beautiful red carpet. Maybe there's beautiful lights on the sides, and then they imagine that they're going down the stairs. I'm their guide, and as they go down each stairs, they become more relaxed. They become sexier, more in control, powerful, but relaxed, And then we go down to the bottom, and then obviously by that point, they should be in a nice, steady, deep trance. And then what I do is, using my script, is I get them to walk further forward. So the vision of all the people have now disappeared. There's no people there no more, but there's this great, big, beautiful, full-length mirror standing in front of them that they can envision being of any sort. They can envision it being a black framed or white pearl frame, whatever they want. It's totally their mirror. And they walk up to the mirror, and that's when they start to discover themselves. So we go from the head down to the feet, and they start recreating an image in their subconscious mind of what they desire to be, what they desire to look like to themselves and to other people. They can even change the color of their eyes, their hair length, their fingernails can go from short to long to whatever color they want. It's entirely up to them. And then once we get through that, they then go into, if they want to, they go into a state of following through, and they can have an orgasmic release, so they can masturbate and go down that path if they want to, feeling absolutely wonderful and feeling vigorous and beautiful at the same time, and bringing that orgasmic release under hypnosis while still in trance, still having that image of who they are and how they feel. But the beautiful part about it is when they come out of it, it's not over. They actually keep a hold of that feeling. So they now have explored what it feels like in a hypnotic trance-like state, but then they take that out, and then they take that with them in a conscious awareness beta state. But they can tap into the subconscious part or the altered subconscious state when they want to. And they may even walk out of there and actually see their eyes as being a hazel instead of a brown, or whatever they want. They're in control. It's what they choose to do. It's what they choose or want to do. So if it makes them feel good about themselves, if it makes them a better person, if it gives them confidence, then there's nothing wrong with that at all, and they can take that with them. Some people choose to leave it there and pack it up and wake up feeling refreshed, amazing, feel good. And yeah, different people, different strokes for different folks, so to speak. But it's amazing the differences in the confidence and everything like that. Yeah, it's g'day Greg, how you going? another dude. I think I missed a few chats here. Lucky lady, yes. She was very happy. She was very, very happy. Are they verbalizing back to me? No, they don't verbalize. So what I like about the scripting, and what I like about hypnosis, and anyone that does timeline regressional work as well, is you don't need to go and have them say anything. They can just internalize it. And if you're reading their body language right, you can tell what's going on. You can see what's going on. I mean, if they're having a pleasurable experience, you can see that they're having a pleasurable experience. There's no ifs or buts. But having said that about pleasurable experience, something I found quite interesting. I went out back Queensland. Who's Queenslander or who's from Australia again? Or show of hands. Yeah, Jenny. There was someone else. Magda. Yeah. There's outback Queensland. There's a place called Thargomindah right out back west, and it's where all they have every year. They have this shearers shindig, and they have all the doggers out there, all the shearers. It's the country boys and girls all rally up and they go out there and just have a big they have competitions, but they have a big party at the end of it. And I did a stage hypnosis show for the Shire out there, and I kept it modest because obviously it wasn't R-rated or X-rated, and I do R-rated, X-rated hypnosis shows if it's desired, but this was just M+. And I had these two guys. I had a dogger and a shearer at the end of it, and I got them to wake up at the count of 5, feel absolutely amazing, refreshed, and all the rest of it. But obviously, the orgasmic handshake is my trait. And they went and they did it, and the audience had them out there, and they were playing around with them for a while. And they even got the two boys. They thought they'll get creative. They'll get the two boys to shake each other's hands, which was pretty interesting. I got a video of it, and they both dropped to their knees pretty much. They wouldn't let go of each other's hands. But the next day, I caught up with both of them. But the young fella who was the dogger, I asked him how his night was. They both said they had the most amazing sleep. They feel absolutely amazing, great, wonderful. But I asked him, I said, can I ask you, when I asked you to go to a place back in the past where you experienced your most pleasurable experience, I said, were you able to do that? He said, oh, instantly. Straight away, I knew where to go, and I found that place straight away. And I said, do you mind me asking what it was? And it's interesting because you have to be very careful with your words, and not careful in the way of bad, just that different words have different interpretations on people. So if I said to someone here, I want you to have your most pleasurable experience, cast your mind back, most people would think something sexual. But this young fella didn't. And he said that his most pleasurable experience was pig hunting with his mates. And you would never think twice of that. But it wasn't killing the pigs or any of that. It was the camaraderie. It was the camping, the drinking, and the telling jokes and all the rest of it. That was his most pleasurable experience. So I found that fascinating, that that's how he ramped up his pleasurable experience from that. So it's not always sexual. Also, having said that, it's another way of getting around it without saying orgasm or orgasmic experience as well. So if you say orgasm, people will then know you're 100% meaning orgasm. One of the things I find intriguing, though, and I don't tell my clients this, and I keep it pretty much to myself, but I can tell through the handshakes who's got experience and who doesn't when it comes to orgasms. I can tell exactly who doesn't have an orgasm or never had an orgasm. It's really fascinating to know just through the handshake, just how much information you can gather through the body language. And yet I don't say anything, but also what I also see in the difference between men and women that do that same exercise is that women are very external. They'll vocalize, they will shake, they will tremor, they will go weak in the legs, where men internalize. They keep it all in. And it's like they're, excuse the pun, they're trying to hold a shit in. So they don't let no moans, no nothing out. They internalize it. So when you're dealing in this type of behavior, it's really interesting to know that there is a difference between men and women and how they physically show the orgasmic response. But in saying that, under the research I've done and everything like that, it's really fascinating to know that there's a lot of women out there, in particular women, that have never had an orgasm or never had a proper orgasm. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that there may be circumstances behind it, trauma, wrong partners, stuff like that. And I think women should never be ashamed of that, and they should be able to go to someone and be able to express that and say, look, I don't think I never have, and I want to have an orgasm. I want to feel what it's like to have a proper release. And that's what it is. It's just a release, but it also brings in alignment. You know, if you are a spiritual person, you'll follow the belief of that we are energy and vibration. And so we can create blockages, and blockages obviously through our chakras can obviously cause pain. It can cause discomfort. It can cause all sorts of stuff, all sorts of nasties. So having a release is not all about just being, you know, dirty or, you know, anything like that. It's actually a beautiful thing. And women who have had a release tend to get quite emotional, and they do cry. And the emotional release isn't just that, it's a whole body experience. They really let go of everything. And afterwards, they absolutely feel like a weight's been lifted off them. And it's not limited. See, the erotic hypnosis isn't limited to just men doing it, but women can do it for women. You know, men can get men to do it. You know, it's not about happy endings or any of that sort of stuff. It's that's a completely different job. This is really something a lot deeper neurologically, and everything stems from the neurological pathways that we create. And if we can work on those, and we can create neurological pathways to give people an opportunity to experience these things, the changes, not just for them, but the people around them, are amazing as well. You know, like building back relationships, and not just with a partner, but with your family and stuff like that, and your kids, because you're happier, not, you know, going through this emotional turmoil every day. You're able to do it through the use of erotic hypnosis and an orgasmic release. It's an emotional release as well, and that's the beauty of it. So yeah, so one of the things, you know, I found out also through my research with men in particular, which is very fascinating, is that how long do you think that the average man can stay in the bedroom during a sexual experience? And definitely most men were found to be very disappointed that it is roughly around about 5 minutes, or up to 5 minutes. That's it, tops, on the average men. Now, the reason, what happens from there, and the reason that's happening is, especially with the younger generation now, is the addiction to pornography, because it's pretty much everywhere. You then have sex addicts obviously watching porno. Now, with especially younger fellas, they watch these pornos and they have an expectation that's how it's meant to be. There's this stud's going for like half an hour in this video. Like that's me. That's what I'm going to do as well. And then they last up to 5 minutes, they're out. And then what happens is it becomes terribly, they become disassociated from it, because they then feel very disappointed in themselves, and they feel that there's something wrong with them. So then they start to self-sabotage, and it goes downhill from there. They think there's something wrong. I had a partnership that come to me, a man and a woman, young couple. They're swingers, they're into everything. And they, the young fella was sexually shy. So he was going impotent. Now, there's a bit of a story behind it, and I'll share it with you, because I think that it's something that you as therapists can relate to in some way, which way, shape, and form. So basically, she was bisexual, he was straight. They would engage in multiple couples. He came to me for therapy, but we did it under the one practice. He came to me for therapy. She came to me for fun. So he came to me because he was socially ashamed of himself in front of other men. And so I did some research on that. And what I found, and I told him, was that the connection between him and his partner, obviously there was a dissociated connection there, because she must have been showing signs that she was being pleasured more so by someone else rather than himself. And so he had to stand there and watch this, because she would obviously have multiple partners. So he became impotent. He started to lose his confidence. So he had no confidence. He's only a young chap too, which is really disappointing, because he's got a whole life ahead of him. Obviously, in my position, I couldn't say too much, but I could see and read between the lines exactly that one had a bit of a sex addiction and the other one was basically trying to please his partner. And so I did explain to the best of my ability, but that was a problem in itself. So you do get that dysfunctional situation sometimes where one's just wanting to get off more, but the other one's obviously struggling and hurting on the inside and finding it hard to please his partner because he's lost his confidence, because he has to stand there in front of other men and watch his partner get off. So very hard situation, that one. It was very difficult, because I had to leave my emotional side out of it, and I had to be careful of how I worded stuff and what I said. But at the end of the day, you know, I gave him therapy and I gave her the pleasurable side of it. So they both walked out happy. That's all I could do. But I do find that you do get those situations, but in most cases, as I said, I find women are the bigger clientele, just because they're more in touch with themselves, they're more open to exploring themselves, they're not afraid to speak out, they have a voice, they use it, where men tend to internalize it and not say much at all. So just reading some of the comments here. Yeah, that's right. No context. Going back to, is that the visualization exercise induction? Imagine the freedom feeling they experience. Yeah. With that one, I don't know if you guys want me to. Oh, you've got it to everyone anyway. So, so Michelle, yeah, feeling the imagine. What do you mean by that one? What is that, going back to the partner, or?
It was going back to, that one was when you had women coming in and having their first kind of like orgasms and stuff.
Yeah.
So, so there's obviously like whatever is behind it.
Yeah.
Once that's shifted, you can just imagine the freedom they would feel on the inside of being released from that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what I did mention earlier on before as well is I started advancing my my skill sets into then doing erotic massage, but not just erotic. It's, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's it sounds almost like diaosist or something like that. Massage, erotic massage, but it's spelled TAOIST, and it's basically a whole body experience. So it gives a release. As I said earlier on, it's not just a release through an orgasm, it's a whole body release. And the beautiful thing about it is, going back to that rapport, they need to know that they're in safe hands, because it's almost like you're taking them back to a really vulnerable state, and you have to be respectful of that. And you also need to be understanding that they're going to then show you their most vulnerable state, and you need to obviously appreciate that, because when they get to that point and they feel the rapport and the comfort with you, then that's when the magic starts happening. That's when they have that whole body release, and honestly, tears, everything, just, yeah, it all lets out, and it's beautiful. And that's all you ever get. You get a beautiful hug, and you get told that, you know, it was the most amazing feeling they've had in a long time. And then when you check in after 7 days or something, you find that they are feeling absolutely amazing. You know, their energy levels have shifted. They're starting to bring in nice people. They're starting to get rid of the toxic people. Some have even said that they've even changed their idea of where they're working. They've decided to work less hours or this, that. They've let go of money issues, all sorts of weird stuff. So weird in the respect that it's something they probably never would have considered or done. So, but I'd say with erotic hypnosis, one of the things that I do get asked a lot about it is consensual agreement. And what do you do there? And how do you cover yourself that someone, especially being a male, working with a female, how do you cover yourself so you know, if someone screams rape or you touch them inappropriately or they imagine waking up and they believe that their button on their blouse is undone or something. So I video all my sessions, and the next step is people go, but how do you get away with that? Because people would just probably say no to that. Never had anyone say no to it, because it's how you present it, it's how you say it, it's how you manage it. So when I record the sessions are purely recorded on a device that's not linked up to anything such as a camera on a computer, or I don't sit there with a GoPro or any of that sort of stuff, or my phone, or that, you know, I do it with a camera that is in my office that just monitors my whole room layout. This is pretty much my office here. And I just tell them, the moment you walk in this room, there is a camera watching everything, and it's for the safety and security for all people involved. And that's it. You either accept it or you don't. And I say to them, what I do is I store the data, I keep it locked in a safe, it stays there, it doesn't get uploaded onto any other device, it goes straight into a hard drive, it sits there. You have the rights to a copy of it. What you do with it's your business, but for me, I'll keep it for a duration of time and then I get rid of it. And that's pretty much it. And they're okay with it, and I've never had any backlash. I've never done anything wrong. You know, it's all about my ethics, my credibility. I don't want to ruin that. I've got too much to lose in regards to that. But it just protects everyone involved. I had a young fella on one of my courses who's over in Perth on the other side of Australia. He does erotic massages, but he does erotic massages. I mean, he gives the women happy endings, oral, you name it. So he asked me about, he wanted to implement erotic hypnosis and use erotic language and stuff to enhance the experience for the ladies. And he told me that he keeps the camera outside in the foyer. And I said, that's okay, but if you go inside, then where's the evidence to say that you didn't touch them or you touched them or whatever the accusation is? I said, you might want to just think about it, but always make sure that it's an overt camera that they can all see and that they're aware of before going in there. But yeah, again, that was his way of dealing with it. He put one out in the foyer, but what he did is he brought them out into the foyer and he got them to sit down, have a drink of water, and then say, is everything all right? So that the camera was picking up on the language, it was picking up on the body language as well. And they would say, yeah, no, I loved it, great experience. So at least he could fall back on that and say, well, they left and they didn't indicate anything at that point. So at least that's something. I always do written consent as well. I do use, with erotic hypnosis, if the consensual agreement's there, I do use erogenous zones that you can incorporate through and use with sensitivity a lot of the times. Sometimes to enhance an orgasmic release, I'll get permission to grab the inner thigh of the woman and just gently squeeze or just touch the inner thigh, and that tends to just move the motion a bit more and create that experience. There's never no insertions or oral or anything like that. It's, you know, it's still above board. Having said that, yeah, that's pretty much it in regards to mutual consent, you know. What I find a lot of the times is the people that come to me can't express themselves anywhere else either, and they want sometimes to just let go and have a bit of fun, and they just want to have an experience, and they just want to have a fantasy, I guess. I had one girl come to me and she said that she wanted to be under hypnosis and she wanted to be tied up in a bondage scene. She loved bondage, and she wanted to be surrounded by vampires and vampires biting her. That was her turn on, that was her kink fetish. So we could create that through hypnosis. And so for that particular one, I actually did a hypnotic script recording for her, and I gave that to her so she could take that home and she could do that herself without being in the presence and doing that with her. And so you do get those type of people coming through that want to experience something that they can't get on the outside. There are cases, not with me, but there are cases where there's some people that like to go and get their erotic hypnosis done. This is over in the States where it's a lot more prominent, where they want to experience amnesia. They don't want to remember who they are. They want to become someone else for the duration of time. So, and they also, the practitioner becomes someone completely different as well. I've played around with that idea on stage using comedy hypnosis, where I've become Santa Claus. I've become the most popular pop star that they have a crush on or want to or desire to be. And in every which way, shape and form, that's who I become. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. I can be anyone with a Tina Turner, whatever. They believe what they're seeing and hearing is that person. So you can do that through erotic hypnosis as well, and you can make them believe that they are that person as well. So there's an endless amount of different things that you can do. It's just, again, up to your creative imagination and where you want to expand it. People sometimes use it with ASMDR and stuff like that, with sensory and sound and stuff as well. A lot of women use that more than men, as in like practitioners. So they do that. It's really not only just good for erotic, but it's also good for people who have sensory issues as well. They love the sound of clicking and stuff like that. But they can incorporate that in the erotic hypnosis scripts as well. So it enhances the experience once again and ramps it up. Because as you know, our perception and projection is built on our filtering system. It's built on our senses. So you can actually incorporate those senses in your work as well. So you can actually, and I use a spray to enhance an aroma, and also it gives them a bit of a boost with their endorphins and stuff like that. But also I just create touch. Like I might run a feather, you know, over maybe their nipple or wherever they desire. I may press on their earlobe, anything like that that gives them that sensual pleasure whilst listening to the directions of what I'm doing as well. So it just enhances all the five senses, and then it creates a better experience. But I find with those clients, you need to get them into a delta. If you can't get them into a deep enough trance and can't get them into a delta before sleep, then a lot of the times you're not going to get that physical reaction. You're not going to get that response. So my advice to anyone, that male or female, that does any erotic hypnosis or does anything in hypnosis, and you want to get that better result, you really need to be confident. Confidence is the key. If you're not confident, you don't sound confident in your voice, you're not going to get the results. You have to be confident. I literally scream at them. I yell and scream at them on stage, and I actually tell them that I'm looking for the best of the best. If you're not the best of the best, I'm kicking you off stage. So what they do is they get a lot more serious. They take me serious, and I show my assertiveness, and then I get better results. So it's really weird, because you would think that you should be soft and very, you know, in tonality, but also soft with your approach, and be very delicate with the situation. but I yell and scream, and I'm there and I'm going, okay, now tighter, 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 now squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And I'm literally yelling out and screaming at them. And then they go under. They go under. It's just the method in which I use that I got taught from a couple of stage hypnotists going back that just outweighs the therapy protocol that you get taught when you're learning hypnosis and you learning therapy side of it. I actually use the staging side of it, and it actually works better. It gives me better results. And I use it here in a chair, one-on-one, in a couple situation, it doesn't matter. I still maintain that same authoritarian look. It's the problem with some hypnotists, though. I know one up here, he gets aggressive. He oversteps the line and he gets aggressive. He starts spitting on them, and he starts screaming and pointing, and it's like, dude, it's now you're being angry at them, like they're not going to do anything. So there's a fine line. You can't be too soft, and you can't say, oh, can you please now just close your eyes? No, you got to say, close your eyes. No, close them tighter. No, you close them. So that's how you speak to them. You're in control. You're commanding. You're telling them. And what I found is you got to be very careful with your wording once again, because like a lot of people go, all right, now we're going to do a suggestibility test. Okay. Well, straight away, the subconscious part of the brain is picked up on the word test, and it's going, shit, I hate tests. Tests scare me. They spook me. I don't want to do a test. So you got to change the wording on things. And then, like, I used to use it, and then I thought about it, and I went, hang on a second, that's not the word I'd be using. So I now say, suggestibility activity. I make it fun, and then people get more involved. They go, oh, this sounds really cool, an activity. What's this activity? And I find that my audience participation ramped up and got higher. So when I talk stage as well, I don't necessarily mean that you guys have to go out there and perform comedy hypnosis. A staging area is any area that you choose to pick where you do multiple people, and you can do groups. That's a staging area. A staging area is a staging area. It doesn't matter where it is. I've done parties. I've done therapy work on grass. I've done it on concrete. I've done it on the stage. I've done it, on someone's lounge chair. It doesn't matter. It's wherever there's a group of people, that's a staging area, and they're the people on the staging area. So you make it really clear so that you don't have an audience member drop off in the trance. You always say, you are the staging people, you are the audience, and unconsciously, or I don't use like the word unconscious, because unconscious, you're out cold. Subconscious, you're aware of it subconsciously that you won't go under trance. I've never had an audience member go under, because I'm just aware of how I present my words. Does anyone have any dying questions they want to ask that I might not have covered? Or just fire away, just ask me pretty much anything you like. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty relaxed, pretty chilled. I just feel like I've been talking heaps.
You have been talking heaps.
I know. Is it a bad or good thing? I don't know.
It's almost an hour and a half. You've done well.
It's very informative. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Jenny. Look, there's so much more to it. There's way more. But the rabbit hole goes within the rabbit hole and then branches out to two more rabbit holes. It just keeps going and going. Like every time I jump on the computer, I do research and try and develop, and enhance what I do. It just takes me to unbelievable places and things that I never imagined, the weird, the wonderful, the beautiful. But I've met so many beautiful people. I've met a couple of lovely Kiwis over here, Mary's, a lovely lady who came to me. She was very traumatized, PTSD. The problem that I had with her was we were doing a breakthrough session, and we're doing a different bunch of modalities to try and get her back on track with her life. But the problem was sitting right next to her partner. And so he was paying for the sessions, but at the same time, he was sabotaging them. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't say anything. I saw this woman perk up, and she started to get color back in the skin. Her eyes started to look so bright and so filled with joy. She was doing really well, and he would just bring it down. And every time he walked into the room in the at the end of the session to do a check-in to see how it went, because he was paying for it, because he was controlling, she would cringe like a dog in the corner. I watched the body language. She'd cringe. It was disgusting. And I was like, what do I do? What can I do? You know, everything I was doing was being undone right there before me. So you do get those situations, but you can only do and work with what you've got. You can't create peace in a day. You can't fix the world, you know. You just got to work with what you got. Is there any questions from the blokes, Greg and Scott? Do you have any questions, being dudes?
I don't have any questions, but I found that fascinating. It's an area I had, hadn't even considered. So yeah, your presentation was really informative. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Greg. What about yourself, Scott?
Yeah, exactly the same as what Greg said. Yeah, just fascinating. Just wow.
It's an entirely
you never
different
really
world,
think about.
right?
Yeah.
It's completely something different. I mean, you've probably all come across cases where it would technically fall under erotic hypnosis. Someone's probably come to you with some sort of sexual performance issues or something that's underlying, like impotency or something along those lines. You know, the thing that I talk about as well is there's the ego and the super ego. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard about it, but the problem in society is that we are forced subconsciously to be sometimes the people that we don't choose to be because of the outside influences, things like religion, governments, corporations, and so on and so forth. And we're manipulated and coerced into being the citizen that people want to see. And so I think the biggest example of that is when here in Australia, they started doing the gay Mardi Gras, and, they broke protocol and they brought what was in the bedroom out onto the street. And for them, well done, because that was a ballsy move, because it'd never been done before. And, homosexuality has been around way back before it was documented. And, just to show that, unfortunately, a lot of people that you see walking around in the street aren't who they want to be. And so they come to people like myself or you, and go to swingers clubs or whatever they do because they find themselves there. That's their happy place. They can't do it out in public because the society has deemed that they should present themselves a particular way. But we're slowly getting there, slowly. But I don't know what New Zealand's like, but Australia's, especially in Queensland, it's still pretty regime. I mean, America's pretty rotten. America's still very racist. It's still very discriminative. When I was in the army, I was sitting there and I'd be at the table with my comrades and we'd be sitting there, multicolored, different races, Aboriginals, you name it, Kiwis, Maoris. And we'd have the Yanks there, and the Yank came over one day and said, "How can you guys eat?" And we said, "What do you mean eat?" And they said, "Well, sitting there next to that black fella." So that's what still goes on in America, unfortunately. I'm just glad that we've evolved a bit more since then, and we've still got plenty of evolving to do, but each day is a small step. And I see what I do is, helping those people find themselves and discover themselves and explore their sexuality, and have a release, and emotional, physical release, and just find their happy place. And, that's what life's about. Life is about being who you truly want to be, not what people want you to be. And I'm sick of the restraints that I see on people, both in relationships and both by public, So yes, the ego and the super ego, that's what it's called. It's terrible. Has anyone else got any questions?
I haven't got a question, but
Yeah.
I've got a very good friend who's been in the sex industry for a very long time.
Yeah.
And she's a dominatrix, and she's had her own business and had girls working with her. And her and I've often had these conversations where, and she's a qualified psychologist.
Yep.
She sees her role as a form of therapy. For men, because a lot of them have what you're talking about. They have dysfunction, or there's shame involved somewhere along the line, or some really deep emotional trauma that they just can't share and they shut down. So they come to a place where she helps them to feel safe and they can actually be who they are. Like they might have a bit of a kink thing going or whatever, and they can't be like that. They can't be themselves. So she sees, we've had some really, really big conversations about this, and she's really into hypnosis as well. And so she sees her role as having a strong form of therapy in helping people to let go of what's holding them back or what's holding them on the inside,
Yeah, no, exactly right. And that's exactly who we are and what we do. So we definitely feel that we are, those people in a position of responsibility. And saying that, I just also wanted to just cover off very quickly with ethics. I didn't quite tap into ethics, which is really quite the backbone of all this. Ethics can be a touchy subject for a lot of people, and people tend to want to define what is ethical for themselves, which makes it quite debatable. And it can offend some other people sometimes because of the differences. So what does brand their choice of being unethical? That's the question. So what does branding something unethical mean to someone? So what I've done through the research is we've gone back to the core principles of what should be made mandatory for erotic hypno and play with therapy. And they're four basic principles, but core principles, and that is consent, always consent, consensual arrangement. It's always got to be covert hypnosis and NLP. So always covert, never anything other than covert. What we experience out in the marketing industry with corporations and government is, what we're experiencing is like mind control type. It's a little bit more because there's rewards and punishment involved. We saw that with obviously COVID. If you didn't do a certain thing, you weren't allowed to do this, and you had to stay home and couldn't go out and all the rest of it. But so consent, COVID hypnosis. Overt. I'm saying COVID. Don't be COVID. It's overt. So it means that you're transparent, open about it. Don't make it covert. Okay. The only time you make it covert is if someone asked you to do something without their awareness, but then that falls back to consent, and you would have that in consent. So not covert, overt. So open, transparent. Negotiation, always negotiate. So you always want to negotiate and make sure that you are 100% on both sides aware of what's about to happen. Is there touching? No touching. Where is the touching? What's to be used? What's not to be used? Because you can eroticize equipment as well, like I said. So, do we use equipment? Do we not? And then the biggest one, number 4, is respect. That's the biggest one. So you must always have respect. So they're your core principles when it comes to ethics, and you can't go wrong if you stick to those. You will be good to go. I just wanted to add that in because I did forget that, but it was like the biggest thing of everything that you need to know. Yeah. Anyone else got anything? Like I said, if there's something later on that you find personable and you want to reach out and you want to have a chat to me, have a deep and meaningful, I'm okay with that. We can jump on Zoom and have a chat, or we can do it by email, phone call, whatever's easy. I'm really flexible when it comes to that. I'm an easy type of guy to talk to. I'm impartial. I don't make judgment. I will just give you my honest, fair income truth, and I won't hold back. If you need to know the answer, I'll tell you the answer. I've many times told people I can't help them, because the underlying issues are very traumatic, and things like childhood, trauma, being molested, rape, stuff like that is something that needs to be dealt with before you can go and step into erotic hypnosis. Need to deal with the fundamentals of that. You can't just say to someone that's gone through that, come on over, let's give you an orgasmic release, because that ain't going to happen. That's just not going to work that way. So there are those circumstances. But if you do feel the need to reach out, as I said, not just directly to me. If you don't want to, you can reach out to Justine. She's there. So, and then she can have a chat to me if you don't want me to know who you are. So that's okay as well. You might want to talk to a woman rather than a guy. So that's all right. Yeah. Anything else?
I can't help you with orgasms. Not like that one.
Yeah, so I pretty much covered what I need to cover. I mean, like I said, I can keep going for days on this, but look, I do teach it. I teach a half a day induction or introduction into erotic hypnosis, so people can incorporate that into their occupation of whatever that may be, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a sex worker, massage therapist, whatever it may be, or maybe you may want to use it for yourself. So I teach you self-erotic hypnosis as well, so you can learn how to write your own scripts to fit into your own needs, and just teach you and fine-tune it on how to do your own self-hypnosis. So there's that opportunity as well. I am going to run a course because Justine is going to be on it next month. I've got to send an email out. Yeah, I'm looking at doing it on Zoom, so it'll be a live event. After that, it'll become just a self-run course that you'll just pay for and you'll do yourself. And then you'll have my back end of support on that as well. Or if you want to try it, and you want to experience it, whether for therapy or for pleasure, you can get in touch with me. I said to Justine earlier today, anyone that has come on tonight and taken the time, I'm happy to offer the experience and the hypnosis session for nothing, to give you an opportunity. All right, so it's just something I'm offering for you guys only, since you took the time to listen to my voice ramble for an hour and a half.
Do you sell recordings?
I do sell recordings, absolutely. And the recordings can be done so they're personable. So the recordings are done so they're customized with your name and your particular want or desire that's within the scope of what you're chasing. So yeah.
Awesome. No more questions from people? No. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Drew, for jumping on and teaching us.
I just hope it was a pleasurable experience for all.
I could stop listening.